Hey guys, welcome to Midwest Fantasy Football League Week 4. This week's top scorer, Chris's Brown-Eyed Monster, knocked off Pope 1.0's Pump Squad, 175.6 to 137.2. Well, these are the weeks that we knew Chris's team were going to be having. Alvin Kamara led the squad this week with a monster 41.6 point game, followed by Julio Jones' 25 points, followed by everyone else on the team. No player scored less than 12.5 points for Chris this week. A great game all the way through his team. For Pope 1.0's team, putting up 137 points in the loss certainly hurts. It's setting a new season high for the best score in losing effort. The 35 points that you got from Kirk Cousins and the 27 points that you got from Jared Cook led your team for the week. Unfortunately, you had 4 players that scored in the single digits, albeit high single digits, but that meant you couldn't keep up with Chris. This is Chris's 6th high score all-time in the league, and his 3rd in the last 6 eligible weeks, since we don't play for high score in the playoffs. He's on fire right now. And for Chris, a little nugget that Nick found in the stats this week, your high score tends to be about 14 points higher than the average high score, meaning for you to win the top scoring prize, you really got to put up a monster score. I'm sure that you probably have noticed this. You feel like you always say, oh, I've gotten second place so many times. Well, this is somewhat of a justification for that.
I knew it!
In this week's biggest blowout, Jason's The Hammock District defeated Lee's I Want Some Butts, 164.4 to 104.5, almost a 60-point margin. As it turns out, when you have 4 players who score 23 or more points, you're usually going to have a good day. That's what Jason got this week, getting 31 points from DeAndre Hopkins, 27.5 points from Tariq Cohen, 24.5 points from George Kittle, and 23.7 points from Carson Wentz. It's rare that you'd want to leave a quarterback with scored 23 points on your bench, but I suspect that you probably would have rather had Jared Goff's 42.3 points that he put up versus Minnesota and grabbed the high score for this week.
Go!
For Lee, his squad was led by Adam Thielen's 26.5 points and Robert Woods putting up 18.6 points. A ton of fantasy value came out of that Rams-Vikings game, which I personally thought was going to be a defensive battle. At this point, I envisioned there being a video clip of somebody whispering in an ear, but I couldn't find one I liked. That video clip would be followed up by, oh right, you can't play defense anymore in the NFL. With the win, Jason moves to 6-2 all-time versus Lee. In our closest game, Pope 2.0's Drunk Choir Boys took down Drew's Undercooked Burger 132.94 to 125.94. A nice, clean, exactly 7-point win. Unusual. The Choir Boys were led by 34.5 points from Deshaun Watson, 23.5 points from Gio Bernard, and 20.2 points from Sony Michel. New England's running backs had themselves a heck of a game as James White put up 27.5 points over on Drew's side. Drew also got 25.8 points from Amari Cooper. This is a rare one. Both teams had their best lineups in, leaving no player on the bench who could have outscored a starting player. This probably was how Drew felt with a starting lineup in, and how he may feel from time to time when dealing with Lodi.
Hey, Coach, is there anything you want to change?
I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell that. Everybody's like, football's a team game. Okay, it's not a team game. Okay, I did my part. All right, I put in a great game plan. I mean, these players, they're horrible. My players are no good. I mean, everybody's like, no excuses. No, you know what? I got 22 excuses. 11 on my offense and 11 on my defense.
Pope 2.0 grabs a rare win here. You've not faced well against Drew in the past. This is only your 2nd win in 7 matchups. In other games, Derek's Gurley's Gone Wild beat my Justin Tucker Must Die, 126.8 to 90.6. For Derek's squad, Zeke Elliott really dropped the hammer on my team, putting up 35 points against Detroit's defense. The 23-plus points that he got from both Matthew Stafford and Todd Gurley helped as well. For my squad, I was really hurt by Sammy Watkins' 0 on Monday Night Football and Leonard Fournette's 4 points, both players who checked out of games early with hamstring problems. While Fournette sat on the bench in real life, his backup, TJ Yeldon, sat on my bench and came in strong with a 21.5-point performance. Derek, you can likely expect some pretty bad juju going forward. While you were up by 32 points on going into Monday Night Football, you had Demaryius Thomas and I had Sammy Watkins. Probably a decently equal matchup. You texted me hoping that Sammy Watkins would break his leg. Well, he didn't break his leg. He definitely hurt his hammy. The football gods are unlikely to be in your favor after wishing harm upon your opponent while rocking such a big lead.
This is very bad juju right here.
Nick's Duchess of T. Bjork grabbed a win over Josh's I Win Because Y'all Drafted 103.25 to 85.4. Nick grabbed the win here, getting a beautiful 23.5 points from Green Bay's defense and 16 points from his kicker, Will Lutz, going for a win via the non-offensive categories. I like it. It's a bold strategy. Fortunately for you, the decision to start Andrew Luck and his 9-point game over Russell Wilson's 39.5-point game didn't cost you here.
Wilson! I'm sorry! I'm sorry, Wilson!
For Josh, the magic dried up this week, taking your first loss of the season. You got 17.3 points from Travis Kelce, 15.8 points from A.J. Green. Unfortunately, the goose egg from Chris Carson, who was held out of the Seattle game, really hurt you. Subbing in Sterling Shepard and Rashad Penny might have gotten you close enough to get to the 18 points that you needed to cover the deficit here. I didn't really feel like doing the exact math to figure out who you have sub in and sub out. Nick continues his domination over Josh, going to 7-3 all-time in the regular season. Finally, Alex's Funkle Up squad got the win over Brandon's once-in-a-generational squad, 130.4 to 112. Alex's squad was led this week by Kareem Hunt's 28 points, and waiver wire find Joe Flacco with 25.22 points. Marshawn Lynch chipped in another 20 points in the flex spot. You did make a couple questionable calls with your bench this week. The good. You opted to bench Fitzmagic for Joe Flacco, which got you an extra 22 points at your quarterback spot. The bad. Leaving the trio of Golden Tate, 32 points, Cooper Kupp, 36 points, and Alshon Jeffrey, 20.5 points, on the bench in favor of Juju Smith-Schuster and Jarvis Landry's combined 19.5 points. Not great. For Brandon, it's another week, and it's another leading score for your team for Patrick Mahomes. His 25.9 points led the team this week, making it 4 straight weeks that he's led your team in scoring. Brandon Cooks added 22 points, and Cody Parkey scored at 15. Running back looks like a pretty dire situation for you, as you opted to start Tavon Austin for Dallas, who put up a measly 7 rushing yards on a day where Zeke Elliott put up 240 total yards from scrimmage. Might not have been the best plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan?
Despite putting up 111 points, you dropped 0-4 and sit in 11th place. There were no new wagers this week. In terms of this week's waivers, lots of hotly contested players, with 5 different players having to be settled by the FAB system. The main target that everybody was after was the Tennessee defense, getting that juicy matchup against the Bills offense. Pope 1.0's winning bid of $4 got the job done over Chris, Lee, and Brandon. David Njoku was another popular man, with 3 players attempting to pick him up. Derek only had to spend $1, but it was enough to outbid Nick and Drew with their $0 bids. As mentioned earlier, Brandon had to start Tavon Austin last week, so he decided to go hard on the waiver wire this week for running backs, picking up Naheem Hines for $15 over Lee's bid of $6, and Nick Chubb for $5 over Pope 1.0's bid of $4. Clearly, Brandon is still unhappy with his running back situation that does not include Saquon Barkley. Finally, Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, was picked up by Derek for a $2 bid to beat Alex's $2 bid due to Derek having the tiebreaker. In Nick's Stat Corner, so far, this year's high-scoring team has scored 29.14 points higher than last year's high-scoring team through the first 4 weeks of the season. As a league, we're scoring 17.5 points higher than the league average through 4 weeks last year. As a result of that, Chris, Jason, and myself are all currently on pace to break the single-season points total. Season 6 has no undefeated teams left after 4 weeks, but there are 2 0-4 teams, which has never happened before in this league. We've never had 2 0-4 teams. The 2 0-4 teams do have a little wiggle room before approaching the all-time longest losing streak. It's currently 7 games. J-Money and Pope 1.0 have the honor of sharing that dubious distinction. Have a good week. We'll see you after week 5.